Fairs. Well, hello everybody, I am Huff, you'll know me as Shadowsreign on the YouTube channel, and today we are going to be presenting you the first episode of the Talk Away A1A podcast. So yeah, here's my co-host Hexy, he'll explain a little bit more.
So I'm Hexy, and what we're going to discuss today with yourselves is what the podcast is and what it is for.
Yeah, and we're also going to get to know the host on the podcast as well.
Talk about the first impressions that we had of 1980s Verdansk.
We're also going to talk and briefly summarise the life of 2019 Verdansk.
We're going to cover some tech with talk about our PCs and value increases over time.
Yeah, for the lockdown there. Then we're going to do a section that we're calling NAR, which is news, announcements and rumours, including a rare, decent balance patch from Raven Software.
And one thing that we have that nobody else has, Did You Know?
So Did You Know is a Geordie term for Did You Know, but yeah, we'll give you that one, but next time we're not going to tell you what that means, but we're both going to surprise each other with a random fact.
Why have I just froze?
You haven't just... It's fine, don't worry about it.
No, just like me mind just went totally blank. So, Craig, starting with yourself, the producer, would you like to tell the audience a bit about yourself?
Sure, so my name's Craig Hoff. I run this YouTube channel here at Shadowsreign. I initially launched it because I do a lot of media work, a lot of filmmaking work, and when the lockdown started, I had no creative output, and I wanted to make my New Year's resolution at the time to be a bit more creative anyway. So lockdown and that New Year's resolution kind of fell hand in hand, but the only thing that I could do was gaming content, so I just did a few bits and edited every day, and here we are, and that New Year's resolution's been achieved. Now we've got a slightly different one, but yeah, here we are, and that's kind of a little bit about my background. What about yourself? Or tell me a bit about yourself, because we call you the ex-professional on stream, so tell me a little bit about that.
Yous do. So, yous call us ex-professional, and I believe this was information provided by Eric, known as Slapshot, because there's no one else that really knew us at the time who was in the A1A. So back in 2008, I used to be paid to play Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare.
So when you were playing, did you play any other games as well, or anything in particular that you got a reputation for?
Yeah, so I transitioned over to Call of Duty from Counter-Strike Source. And I transitioned over from a PC to an Xbox 360, where I was really poorly funded, wasn't making much money, didn't have the chance to repair the PC, so that's what transitioned us over to an Xbox and got us actually playing more Call of Duty, because before that I didn't play it until around about since Call of Duty 2, which was like a World War II theme.
Really? Wow. So you mentioned that you played a lot of Counter-Strike, which I believe was a PC only game, well it still is, but back then especially. So in regards to like PC gaming and all that jazz, when did you get yourself into PCs? Because everyone's usually got quite a unique story about how they got into PCs, which is kind of what I like about it.
Yeah, and as you know, over the few weeks we've got a few common friends going back to our youth there, Mr. Hoff, which we kind of come across.
I'm still in my youth, me.
So back when I was a child, I would probably say around about 5 to 6 year old, I had a neighbour. I don't feel comfortable really saying his name, but we had a neighbour who we ended up having mutual friends with, and I pretty much didn't play out much. I wasn't really much of a social person at a really young age, and I spent my time pretty much gaming out on like old Jaguars and was Dead or Alive, like fighting games.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah.
With our mutual friend. And he obviously built PCs, built as my first PC, told us the budgets and stuff, and kind of got us started, and I was just hooked from then. Just hooked.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you got yourself back obviously onto the Xbox platform, and then you came across. Was that recently, or was that something that's happened? How to word it? Was this something that has always been in the pipeline? Have you always had like crap computers, and now that you've got a PC better than a console, that you've started to use it, or have you recently went, you know what, sorry, I'm sick of consoles, bolt the wall, I'm old enough to do it now. Here's a credit card. Here's a whatever. Let's just bash one out. Because you, from what I can tell, you started your resurgence in the PC community with quite a bloody bang.
Wait, this time I did. However, first time round I didn't. A lot like yourself, As a child, we're very limited by our parents' income and what they deem we're allowed to use for our own entertainment and survival.
You got to remember that like our teens was through like a massive like recession as well, which wasn't fun for anyone, of course. But no, that's a.
Our PCs were white, kind of like what you see in the old kind of what is this picture. Like 90% of times we were playing games with it. Whatever it is. And no, it wasn't the best of starts. Funding wasn't great. Had an old Dell. I think it was good. It was all right at the time. It wasn't no gaming PC, but it was like a Pentium dual processor. It had nothing. I played Unreal Tournament on it until I was about 12. At which point, our mutual friend presented me with a graphics card that he was no longer using, at which point I started investing more time into things like 1.6, Condition Zero, and it kind of pushed us into the Counter-Strike theme. But what about yourself, Craig? Because you've been also, since around about the same age, 5 or 6, if you'd like to carry on and just go from like kind of your upbringing into that section, because it's similar, but it is more different.
I was actually quite old before I got introduced to the PC scene. So I've always been a PlayStation guy. I remember when I was like, I can't remember, 3, 4, 5 maybe. And my parents gave me a PlayStation 1. And with that, I remember I got Spyro the Dragon. I got Gran Turismo 2 or something like that. And then I got, did I say Crash Bandicoot Spyro? But yeah, so I used to play like all the Crash Bandicoot games and really quite enjoyed it. And for me, we lived in a good area. I mean, don't get us wrong, I actually live in the same area you live in now. So obviously we had that nice big field up there, but the problem with that is that, you know, I'm still like quite a young 3, 4, 5-year-old Ben, and my parents weren't like, well, you're not playing anywhere where we can't see you. But the only place where they could see us play would be like an allotment which was full of nettles and just a general place that you don't really want to be. So ultimately I thought, well, I might as well just play some games then. And I did, and got hooked ever since. I remember I got a Game Boy soon after that. It was a Game Boy Color. So I had games like Pokemon on there, and Super Mario. Super Mario was a game that I played quite a lot of. But basically, my transition to PC was quite late. So I remember being about 16, 17.
And what was your introductory game?
Resident Evil 5, believe it or not. I know, right? Cool. I know, right?
I wish I had that sort of introductory, but it was a lot more rough.
But my friend at the time, the same friend who's kind of like, let's commandeer this microphone, Mike, he always had like the cutting edge audio equipment. So like whenever like we used to like pop the music on, would go down his, because he had all like the fancy speakers. Like he didn't have much money, but what he did spend, he spent on good audio equipment. So for me, that was, you know, kind of why I'm a bit of an audiophile in that regard. But he always had stuff like he was like a couple of months older as well, so he was always just slightly ahead on birthdays and stuff like that. So he would get something cool, and then for 2 months I'd want that cool thing, and then I would eventually get that cool thing on my birthday in the June. So like, but eventually he got a PC, and his first PC was a hunk of, it was hot garbage, but it was. I could still see the potential, like, and I was quite a naive Ben, and I remember seeing it, and I was like, "That's so cool! I like how you can just play a game, then just tab out, and you got your internet browser. You can come back to your game. You don't have to like, and obviously free online as well. I mean, that's something that
no subscription.
I was savvy. I was on PlayStation 3 at the time, and I was enjoying it. It was in the Black Ops 2 days. No, was it? Yeah, no, it was Black Ops 2 days. And I remember because I just got Diamond Pistols, which was a right pain in the arse because I got the Executioner pistols. But my friend, the same friend, was like, right, okay, here's a PC. It should be about £800, but I've seen it on eBay for 400. Get a hold of it, and I did. Just basically went for it and never looked back since. It's that Radeon card that you saw before. That was what was in that PC, and I started
that from a distance.
Yeah, I started quite humbly in that regard. I'll quickly show the audience if we just cut to you for a second. But no, I started very, very humbly at the age of 17, 18, and everything. I know everyone looks at my computer now and thinks, "Wow, that's an absolute gorgeous machine." That like you must be like rich or well off or something. Not at all. Like I'm a paycheck kind of guy. It's just that it's been slowly built. So like I'll put like a £100 upgrade in here, and maybe I'll save up for 2 or 3 months, and then put like a big £300 or £400 upgrade in. So it is what I've casually grown into it, you could say. But I've always played games like COD. I've played that on like PlayStation 3 at a friend's house, and then I eventually got my own PlayStation 3 when World at War came out that Christmas. So I've always been behind the curve. I've always had to watch other people play their games. I've always had to. I know we're stuck on Hexy. I'm just grabbing the card.
Yeah, it's always been like a spectator game, hasn't it? It's like you've always been watching professional players do what you want to do, and never actually having the technology or kind of just the stuff to be able to do it yourself. Well, bear in mind that me and Craig haven't kind of funded our PCs through streaming or anything. We've not got them in any sort of thing. Like it's been a long upgrading time, hasn't it?
So this was indeed it has. This was the graphics card I pulled out that machine. So this was obviously I've lent it out and it's full of crap now. But I can't be bothered to clean it. But this was the first graphics card that was in my machine, and I upgraded that to this. Bear with us a sec. I upgraded that to one of these bad boys, a 550 Ti, and I thought that was the best card ever. And yeah, really exciting little upgrade for me. So
but back in I would say back early, say between 2010 2015, Ivega was one of they weren't budget. They were quite well branded. They were known for their graphics.
It was a good value brand. I found it was a very good value brand that I found it. So yeah, I've had humble beginnings in the PC land, and everything I know about PCs, because obviously, as you know, I've built well in excess of over 120, 130 computers now from start to finish. But I self-taught myself all this stuff from like 18 onwards. Like I left school with like a merit in IT, and that's basic really. Compared, you would look at me and think that kid fly double distinctions IT. I wasn't really interested in IT, mainly because I sat next to two absolute gorgeous women in the class. So I wasn't really particularly interested in
There's always that thing of being branded a nerd at school, though, as well, isn't it? Like, you don't want to kind of leave yourself vulnerable.
I was never the nerd at school because I couldn't afford anything, and my parents they weren't like that well off. They weren't well off at all. So like 1 or 2 games like every 2 or 3 months was what we could get, and this is when like games were cheaper as well. Bear in mind, and they were usually like chipped as well, which for our America's audience basically means it was a hacked console which you could put hacked games onto. It's a bit like pirating them today. So like for me, I never really had premium growing up. I never really understood it. It was always like value, and not even value, budget outright most of the time, and I couldn't really be classed as the nerd because I never had the stuff to nerd out with. Like the most technical piece of equipment I had was my phone, and that was one of the Sony Ericsson Walkmans, you know what I mean? So apart from that, like I've never really had tech until I was able to work for myself and you know, help myself out in that regard. So at school I wasn't one of the cool kids, and absolutely not, but I wasn't exactly like at the bottom, like getting bullied all the time. Past about year 10, when my nana passed away, like after that I kind of like stopped being at the bottom of the pecking order, if you like when people gave us crap, I just gave them crap back, and that's kind of when I found out I had a very witty mind. So I thought, sod it.
So I don't have skin.
Yeah, so I don't have stature, but I do have a razor sharp like mind and quick wit, so I'll just use that. I remember the turning point for me was that it sounds quite horrible now considering I was only 15, 16 or something like that, but someone threw like a hairdryer at us, one of the lasses, and I picked it up and threw it in the bin. Like usually I'd have just took that and walked away, but I thought, nah, fuck you daft bitch. So I grabbed this hairdryer, put it in the bin, and she goes, "You want to pick that up, you fucking midget?" And I was turned round, stoic and calm, and said, "Listen, pet, you calling me a midget is like me calling you a slag. All we're doing is stating the obvious," and walked up. And then, do you know when you see that meme of everyone going, "Whoa!" it was like that in the whole classroom, and she didn't know what to do with herself. Obviously,
So you had your moment.
I had my moment. And before anyone goes around saying that was a bit harsh, that was a bit awful, this was one of the mean girls, you could say. Like, she had it coming. Like,
And this is school. It's not as soft as it is these days.
Yeah, like she had it coming from a lot of people, but I think I was one of the first to actually be like, "No, you daft cunt. Like, you're not talking to me like that. You're not treating me like that. Have some of this." And from there, I kind of got myself tough skin and took it from there, really. But yeah, that's pretty much my introduction to PCs and generally being an outgoing personality. So your PC, Alan,
Yeah.
you've obviously you quite enjoy it. You've always been there regarding it.
I'm protective over it, for
And
sure.
very protective over it, of course. So
Yeah.
I think the last thing I'd like to know about you is what is gaming to you? What is tech to you?
I pretty much live for it. Like, I'm not the type of guy that goes to work. Well, I go to work, but I don't finish work and go to a pub. I don't go out and kind of do anything else. If I'm not working, I'm gaming.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm awake, I'm gaming. I pretty much sit by a computer at least 18 hours a day, and I have done for the past.
That's combined with work though as well, but
Yeah. I work in a call center for the NHS, so I do kind of do a lot of speaking to customers on the phone, general customer service in my day-to-day life, which requires a lot of like computer usage throughout the day. But while I'm not doing that, I'm gaming 100% all the time, always finding people to play with. They don't even have to be people I play with on a day-to-day basis. I will go out and I will search for somebody just to spend that night with. just play with them all night for as long as I can and just get as most as I can out of that one person. And then the next day I'll do something totally different.
Yeah.
Oh.
No. Go on.
I was just going to say, while we are on the topic of gaming, computers, toxicity, how about Verdansk?
How about Verdansk? Wait, yeah. So we'll briefly get into that because at the minute we're slightly ahead of ourselves. So yeah. So as you can tell as the audience, we talk about gaming on this podcast. We're going to be talking about tech. That includes consoles as well. Like we treat gamers equally. I know we joke on about being PC elitists and PC master race and all that jazz, but like really, like we come from consoles. Like really, like we understand it, and like, you know, we if something cool's happening in the console market, we want to talk about it, because the better that consoles are doing, the better PCs do. It scales directly because companies like Nvidia and AMD, like if they don't really need to compete against consoles or each other, they won't. But the second that there's a console that can beat a $300-400 similarly priced PC, then you start seeing releases like the 30 series or the original 10 series, and then things get really, really, really juicy. And also on this, as well as talking about games and tech, we're also going to be talking about general world issues as well. So if we were around in the bug outbreak, we would have obviously covered that as well, but I don't really feel as if that's appropriate anymore because everyone knows everything there is to know about it. But in regards to talking about Verdansk, are we talking about the 1980s one, or are we talking about the original one? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go?
So we're going toxicity. So our first game, first impressions. So would you like to talk about the pre-release of the 1980s? So we'll go part one.
Ah, right. This is why you're saying the toxicity. So, briefly put out a video. So I initially put out a stream. We were going to stream the end event. We thought it would be like, you know, a normal part of the game with like a couple of twists. You know what I mean? But it was, I wasn't really impressed, to be honest. I know it was only for a few hours, but I wasn't impressed at all. I was quite disappointed. Like I remember saying to the boys like on the stream, like, is anyone actually getting a kick out of this? And it was like, nah. It's like, right, okay, we'll just do Rocket League instead. So I do appreciate them trying something different, because for everything that works, you know, you've got to experiment, and some stuff won't work and some stuff do. So I do actually quite enjoy the fact that they're being ambitious. I like the idea that they're trying new things, but I don't like the idea that it felt a bit lazy, if I'm being honest. It was like they're trying to mimic a Fortnite event there, which, if you're gonna do it well. I felt as if it was poorly executed, much like everything Raven had did in seasons 1 and 2. Notice how I haven't said season 3 there, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But the initial crossover event, I wasn't too impressed with, and I also thought that the game was going to get moved to the Cold War engine, because that would be the sly kind of thing Activision would pull. But what did you make of it?
So for me, I was on the same page. I didn't really rate anything of that part 1. It felt like they were doing a lot of things that they'd already done. So for me to kind of wait and have to go... I mean, to be fair, the movie and cutscene was pretty good, but it made the game look worse because the effort that went into the creation of that trailer that kind of showed like the explosions and the nuclear blast within things like downtown. Like, it was like the detail was amazing. Like, I was sitting there, I was like, where are these graphics? Like, why aren't I getting this on a daily basis? And why is it only in like a 15-minute sort of thing? If they've got the technology to do it, I will wait the time to get a game that looks that good. I will.
Yeah, because this is the thing, like when you're in the PC sphere, like when you pay all this money for like high-end graphics cards, you want the frame rates, you want the games to actually be able to run them properly. Like I feel quite insulted when I buy a game and it's running at 30 FPS, but I've got a 2070 Super in there, and there's no excuse for it to be that slow. Like, no. I'm not paying to be in this sphere for that level of performance. And that's when I'll look at a game developer and think, nah, sod you, I'm playing something else. But no, initially, part 1, not a big fan of. However, 1980s Verdansk, I did not have high expectations. How could you? It was, it was the implementation. We'd had seasons 1 and 2, which was basically season DMR and season FFAR. It seemed so slow and sluggish, and when they patched things and added things in like the Psychov pistols, which I'm pretty sure they weren't meant to do, but they were like, kind of got to roll with this now. I just felt as if they didn't have a bloody clue what they were doing, and I agree. It had a very, very, very like what's the term? Headlights,
real with each other.
Deer and headlights kind of a theme, but yeah. Played 1980s Verdansk, and more of the addition on the tech part, which we'll talk more about later on. They've added a setting called NVIDIA DLSS, which most games have these days, to be honest. It was kind of a bit crap that the COD didn't have it, but I'm going from average frame rates of around 75 when like recording to now around 100 and 110, and a very, very, very little drop in quality. Very barely noticeable. Like you've got to be sat there going like that to tell any real differences. So, oh, there goes my pop filter. Just whacked that off me mic.
But the thing is, you move too fast through Verdansk to see that sort of deterioration of your graphics while using DLS.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Call of Duty is such a fast-moving game, it's very rarely you're sitting watching one position unless you're locked in the bathroom in farmland in Verdansk.
Yeah.
Other than that, you're pretty much always on the move, and even if you are holding a building or a rooftop, you're always holding left or right. So I would much rather have those extra FPS than those moments where I am standing still.
Ooh, isn't that pretty? Yeah, you see, I like to have the mix. That's why I go for like the high end cards. I like it to look awesome and run awesome. Especially like when I'm recording, because I don't want my viewers to look at shite. Like I want people to look at quality, and that's kind of the whole reason that I buy a mic. I don't buy the mic for myself. I buy that for the audience. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I'm surprised you don't call me Hexy the Potato. To be fair,
why would I call you Hexy the Potato?
Because you see my graphics settings to the card I use.
Yes, that's a discussion for maybe it's a different podcast. But yeah, first impressions, really good. I want to briefly get your opinions on how you think the whole of 2019 Verdansk went, because obviously that dropped, I think it was March last year, and I think it was initially really well received. It was coming out when Apex was doing well, Fortnite was still absolutely on top, and coming from Blackout, which was good but not played as much as what I maybe think it deserved. It did have problems, of course, especially with the likes of audio, which was a bit messed up. But Warzone introduced a very easy revive mechanic. We know that Apex had one as well, but we say easy. Like, if you had enough money, you could just go to a shop and buy someone back. If you died for the first time before round 5, you had a gulag and you could obviously return. This was pioneering stuff when it came out. And I thought it got off to a really strong start. So let's talk about that. Let's get your views on that, Hexy.
So I agree. Having that option of you can jump in with a team of four,
it was three at the time. You could only do. I think you could only do trios to begin with.
But I mean, even throughout 2019, I'm sure you could still get the quad mechanics, and I'm sure that Plunder was 2020, wasn't it? That it come out.
No, Plunder was just called Blood Money, just had a different name.
That's right, yeah. So but at the same time, you could jump in and you could do things like, obviously, team attacking each other, things like that. And when a player come to be downed or wiped from a team, it had that really great aspect what other BRs didn't really have, or Battle Royales didn't have, was that it kind of introduced that 1v1 mechanic, where at the beginning, if you realise, pretty much everyone was jumping into Verdansk to get killed, to have their gulag, to then continue to play the game. Like, the gulag at one point was like, I want to be there.
Yeah, like, everyone threw their first life away. Not necessarily deliberately to say I want to go to the gulag, but more along the lines of I can be super aggressive and just push. If I get killed, I can come back in the gulag. If I get killed and don't get out the gulag, I can just get brought back, which really tended to favour players like me and yourself. But when you compare that to something like Apex, like, even if you died, someone had to run to your dead body, pick up your tags, and then run to a sparse amount of revive things. They've changed it now, and obviously you can get revive balloons and stuff, and there's a character which can pick up your revive banner from a drone. So that's obviously changed since then. But at the time, there was none of that, and it was quite a tedious affair. And if you were playing with randoms, you probably weren't getting rezzed. To be honest, you were getting left behind up until, like, before they brought the ranked in. So that's just kind of, and even then you still sometimes got left. So that's just kind of how I feel about that. I thought it was really good start of the game, but it's went through some phases of metas as well, hasn't it?
It has, yeah.
So we initially started off, I don't know if you'll remember, but we started off with the M4 and thermal sniper meta. That was a bit raj, but I didn't actually mind that. I don't mind there being metas if they have reasonable counters. What I don't like is unfair, unbalanced, overpowered. So stuff like FFAR, you can't counter it with speed because it's the fastest bloody gun in the game. You can't counter it with time to kill because it's the fastest time to kill in the game. And you can't counter it on recoil because it's got really good recoil. Like, there's no way you can counter that typically. So
only in the mobility factor.
Well, not even that, mate. Not even that. It was still faster than a lot of SMGs. But stuff like the M4 thermal meta, that was counterable, so that was fine. Stuff like the Grau, I hated the Grau meta. Like, I hated the Grau meta. I made several videos kicking off about the Grau.
Yeah, but it was very unbalanced on release, to be fair.
But
it was
counterable. And it was counterable by the Bruin. But the Bruin was what you could argue a pay-to-win gun. Because you had to unlock it via a challenge which could only be unlocked through multiplayer, or you could buy a blueprint, because of course you could, and the blueprint was actually quite a strong one as well. So for me, I always used the Bruin, but I'd bought multiplayer anyway before Warzone even came out, so that wasn't a problem for me. But then other people were like, well, why can't I use this gun? This is pay to win. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I was like, they haven't got multiplayer, have they? Of course it appears pay to win. So, yeah, but metas, they usually have counters. The only reason that I've not been a fan of Raven Software's Season 1, Season 2 is because the shit they break doesn't have counters. Wait, it does, but it's stuff like, for example, the M16, you can counter that with an M82, but then you're really vulnerable to anything that's not an M16. So if you're not going straight up against an M16 or an AUG, you're in trouble. Going up against them, fine. You've got a good chance of winning that fight, but if you're going up against something like an AMAX at that medium range, you're in trouble because it can spit out that constant damage, and the AMAX makes you flinch like a bitch. Like the M16 and AUG don't, but the stuff Modern Warfare guns do. Like M82 against a Modern Warfare 2 gun, Modern Warfare 2. Hey, I wish against a Modern Warfare gun,
Well, but on the topic of 1980s Verdansk, though, and you mention stuff like Modern Warfare 2, there is Modern Warfare 2 implements within Verdansk now.
How do you mean?
Because wasn't Summit from Modern Warfare 2?
Summit? No, Summit was Black Ops.
Oh, was it?
It was, yeah.
Right. That is my bad.
And the only reason I remember that is because in the trailer for the game, they showed you using like the little camera spike, which replaced your UAV with the camera, and they did it on that map. I don't know why. I remember seeing that trailer and thinking that's so fucking awesome. But yeah, so that's kind of how I feel about that. But no, I feel as if 2019 for Verdansk was decent. I feel as if it had a lot of room for improvement, and the hacking problem was rampant, and it still hasn't really been fixed. But out of 10, what would you give 2019 Verdansk?
Ooh, see, at the beginning, I did really enjoy it.
Yeah, this is throughout the entire time. So this, use the start and the bad, the good and the bad.
What me ending vote on it?
Overall,
I would probably give it like a 6.
A 6,
or a 7.
Now you see, like that's just slightly above average, isn't it? Slightly above average, which I think if a better game comes out, it's dead. It really is.
Oh yeah, 100%. But it's still currently a leading game, and as much as we know how many issues and stuff the game has, it's still leading. Yeah. It's still the leading BR. And there's nothing competing with it at the moment. However, there's rumours going forward, come at least 2022, there should be another Battle Royale, which we're waiting for.
I think the trend of Battle Royale is slowly beginning to fade. Slowly but surely. I've really been enjoying multiplayer on Modern Warfare quite a lot, and I know that a lot of other people have been as well. Cold War multiplayer, they tried something new, but that game did get rushed out, and it showed it's still not a finished game today. But Modern Warfare, obviously that came out in a similar state, but they did get their act together after a few months. So it is what you call a finished game now, and people now, a year later, have a finished Modern Warfare, which they can go off and play. But for me, I'd probably agree. I'd give it a 6 or a 7, but take that with a pinch of salt, because I'm not a Battle Royale kind of guy typically. I only really played it because the A1A played it. I was happy just to play multiplayer the entire time, but you know, I followed what they wanted to do, and I didn't want to play alone. So
I come from a Battle Royale background. I've been playing Battle Royale since the release of Battle Royales.
Yeah.
Which actually happened to be a lot, like even before PUBG. There's games that have provided Battle Royale options, that people have never really taken advantage of until games stood out like PUBG and then Apex and stuff. And obviously now Call of Duty being one of the leading ones. Battlefield in its day didn't, the Firestorm one didn't really. I don't really think that got the production it needed.
It was a lot better than what people made it sound though. Like I played a few rounds of it and thought, this is actually quite good. But I think Battlefield are the masters of big maps though. Like COD isn't, which is why their big Warzone map stands out, because it's only like massive map really outside of a couple of ground war maps that stand out as big war-like maps. But Battlefield's always had massive maps, and that's why you go to Battlefield. If you like massive maps, you play Warzone, or you just play normal Battlefield. Like, I don't think it needed it, and I don't think the audience wanted it, because they got everything that they wanted out of Battlefield, whereas people didn't get everything they wanted out of Modern Warfare, which is why they went to Warzone. So that's just kind of how I'm vibing with that. But when there's more news, we will be talking about that on this podcast. Next, we're going to briefly move on. I say briefly, we are going to move on and talk about PC specs. We've got roughly about 15 minutes left of the show, purely because we're filming this on a Friday morning. We were up shit hot for you today at 8 o'clock. But yeah, so in the morning. So we're going to briefly talk about PC specs as part of kind of like the get to know us section a little bit. But Hexy, tell me what's in your PC.
My PC, I am running a 2080 Super. I got the ROG Strix Edition one. I always have the... To me, branding does help a little bit, in my mind.
You pay that much for parts. You want to feel premium, you know what I mean? You don't want to get like an unnamed like 600, 700, 800 quid graphics card, do you? If you're paying that much money for a component, you want it to look like the shit.
I mean, I'd be happy to show you, but like the PC's big, you know. I don't really fancy moving it.
Oh yeah, another day we can make that video. I can do that video next time that we faff about with your cables or clean it out or whatever. So the audience will see your PC on this channel eventually. Just obviously not really practical today, is it?
But I do run a 2080, an i9 9900K, 16 gigabytes of Vengeance Pro 3200s. I only run it on a 600 watt.
That's RAM, by the way.
Yeah, a 600 watt power supply. And I have an AIO water cooler, and I believe it's the H60. And then I've got me 3 intake fans, 1 exhaust.
The case is a pretty good case that you got in there as well.
Yeah, cost us around about £500 for the case.
Which I think,
it's all tempered glass, double doors.
I think you've been mugged off there, mind. But
it's no.
Yeah, I know what cases you can get for that. It's a
machine case. I'd love it. I'd pay it all day.
It's an ATX Corsair all tempered glass case, which is fine, but you could have got the Obsidian 1000D for like 50 quid more, and it would have. But anyways, so my PC, we are rocking a Ryzen R9 3900X. We are rocking 32 gigabytes of Vengeance RAM. We are the same as Hexy's, the RGB one. I'm running a 2070 Super. I'm running the Asus ROG motherboard. I'm running a Fractal Design Divine R5 case. However, I have bought a window for it, like not like the plastic one you may have seen on the channel, like the full, like actual acrylic window. It's gorgeous, and I got a big F off Be Quiet fan as well. The Hard Rock one, the massive one. I've got Be Quiet fans in there as well, and this is probably going to be the most shocking bit. I have got around about 25 to 28 terabytes of storage. So I've got 5 drives in the computer, and I've got 3 hard drives outside of the computer. So I've got an NVMe, 1 SSD, 3 hard drives internal, and 3 hard drives external. So I didn't actually realize how much value that added to my computer until I totted it up the other day. I was like, my hard drives collectively cost more than my graphics card. So I was like, but that's what happens when you get into the YouTube game and the media game. But I always needed this stuff anyway, so it always made sense. But I kind of feel bad for anyone wanting to get into PC gaming at the minute, purely because like of the mining crisis and everything like that. And obviously the bugs made the economies go down, which has pushed the value of cryptocurrency up, which means it's very profitable for mining farms. If you don't know what mining farms are, it's basically where they get the graphics cards, and you can mine what's called like Ethereum or Bitcoin, Dogecoin. You may have heard of these things.
Like a cryptocurrency.
Cryptocurrency, where basically you're mining mathematic equations, and when you crack a mathematical equation, you'll get 1 Bitcoin, and then if you contribute in that, which the majority of the thousands and tens of thousands of people do, they'll get a small percentage of Bitcoin, and that's what usually gets mined. Very, very, very rare you get the, I don't want to call it find a fee, but they crack the code really. And people obviously invest thousands of pounds in their graphics cards for that, and there's like literally warehouses just full of these machines that do it, which is why it's very hard to find a graphics card at the minute. And because of supply and demand, there's a lot more demand than there is supply, so people are charging whatever they bloody well want for graphics cards. So I've got an example, my own graphics card, the 2070 Super. I bought that about 2 months after release, and I paid £420 for it. I'm thinking about my 1070 there, although that's went up in value. So I paid £420 for that, and it's now sat at about £850 for my graphics card. My graphics card has doubled in value with age. So that's mind-boggling. My 1070, I paid £380 for that about, well, when that came out, really. So that was quite a long time ago. That's now worth about £100 more than what I paid for it as well. There was a RAM crisis, which we're only just recovering from. So yeah, the prices of PCs are going up, and it's a bit mad to think that a computer that I initially bought for about £1,600, like all in all, not at once, obviously across the years building it up, is now worth nearly £3,000. That's mental, absolute mental. If I was an investing man and interested about the money, I'd be flogging that on immediately. But I am here for the content, I'm here for the games, and I'm here for, you know, I'm here for the love of it. I'm a hoarder. You can see by these graphics cards that I've got lying around. I love hoarding stuff, but...
And I've got another one of your graphics cards.
You are holding on to 2 of my graphics cards at the minute.
I do have 2 of your graphics cards.
I've got graphics cards for days. So I've got me 2070 Super in this computer. I've got me 1070 in that one. I've got a CPU in Ruse. I've got... Connor's got one. Ginger Fox has got one. He's got a 1650 that I bought Joe for one Christmas.
Slapshot got one?
Slapshot's... No, that was one of Connor's old cards. That one's not my card. But like I say, we're just keeping that in there just until Connor asks for it back. So we've got loads of cards. We've got 2. You've got a 750 and a 780. That belongs to me. And I've got another card lying around somewhere. I don't know which one it is, but there's another one. And obviously, I've got like the cards that I've left on that shelf. So yeah, I've got quite a lot of graphics cards in that regard. So what graphics card do you have currently? You said it was a 2080 Super, did you not?
2080 Super, yeah. And I was just looking at my history there, my card. I actually thought I paid a lot more for it, and I didn't.
How much did you pay for it?
I paid £101.90. No, £801.92.
And that was for a 2070 Super. Sorry, 2080 Super.
2080 Super, yes.
Yeah. So let's just have a wee little look. So I've just brought Amazon up here. I'll just move this mic, so now we're gonna get closer.
Is Amazon will converter, is it?
Amazon's. Sorry about this pop mic. It will be. Wait, I'm getting a new mic. This one's just a stand-in. Mic's fine, just a pop filter, just a bit wank. So RTX. So how much do you see you paid for it, mate?
I paid £801, like 60, like I think it was like 62 pence or 92 pence, like.
So you're in the 800 mark, yeah?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, under £802.
What brand is it?
It's a ROG Strix. So it's
ROG Strix. This won't even be in stock. We'll not even get a price for this. So let's just have a little look.
It's the Asus ROG Strix, yeah.
I can't even find them in stock. Yeah, so let's just look at an MSI one, which you could argue is the inferior model. That's sat at 13.
I would say it's inferior. I wouldn't touch an MSI.
That's sat on 1300.
Not that they're bad or anything, just me personally, I like to have a ROG. I'm a very ROG Strix. A ROG Strix has never broken us.
So
never.
A similar model that you've got here, mate, is the... your audio is on this channel, yep. Is the Gigabyte WindForce one, which is the... I've got the WindForce version of my card, really good card. That's sat at 1350. So that's a lot of money, Jesus.
Yeah, it's like £500, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's not even the ROG Strix one.
Not even the ROG Strix. No, I'm struggling to find the ROG Strix. But yeah, like your graphics card alone in some cases is, you know, it's £500-600 more expensive now than what you paid for it. And
yeah, and then there was an inferior one.
Yeah,
is what I would call it.
I would say the Windforce is around the same place, because the Windforce one, it's got like a really good cooling technology on it.
They do.
So I still think yours would have been more expensive, because the Asus ones just are. But yeah, that's a lot. $1350 for your graphics card today, and it's a slightly inferior model. That's mind blowing. Like,
been thinking about selling it, you know, and just going without Call of Duty, and just as soon as a 3080 is available, just.
Mate, you'd be bored. You'd be bored. It would be the longest few weeks. And to be fair, that's kind of where a lot of people are in the PC community at the minute. A lot of people are like, well, I'll sell me 2080 and I'll buy a 3080 to find that there's no 3080s available. So
would be waiting months.
So yeah, if you could kind of loan yourself the money, might be worth, like, some people might buy a 3080, then offset that against the price of what they sell their 2080 for. But then you've got to have the extra money in principle, haven't you? So,
we've struggled for the girlfriend for a graphics card, and that's why we've tried to loan a few graphics cards from yourself.
Mate,
see if we can get.
Find yourself £1,300 and get yourself a Windforce 3080 Super. Just give her your 2080.
Oh no way!
No
way! I'll wait till they go back to £600 or something.
No, it will happen. By the way, everyone, like, it will happen. Like, the prices of these, this has happened before. I think it was the start of the 10 series we had this problem, but then eventually it sorted itself out. It will sort itself out. All you need to do is just wait for the economy to go up slightly. And the more people that
1080s,
the more people
went through a thingy.
They did. The more people that have Bitcoin, the less valuable it is. So just bear that in mind. This won't last forever. It never will. Obviously there's chips shortages, but that's getting sorted out, I believe, with Samsung, and I can't remember the other company involved. It's basically Korea's sorting it out. Just let Korea deal with it, okay? That's just let Korea fix all these world shortage problems. But yeah, we are going to move on to the section. I'm going to be very quick about this. It's going to be the NAR section. So the NAR section, news, announcements, and rumors. I think the biggest news of the day is obviously Verdansk 1980. First impressions really good, but a rare balance patch from Raven, which is actually decent. People are figuring out what the new meta is again, and I think that's a delightful sight. People aren't using the same thing. People don't know what to use. And that's brilliant, because that means I can rock around Verdansk with an EBR and an SKS and love me life again. Like, what do you think about it, man? What do you think of the patch? I've got the patch notes here.
I'm not going to lie, I did enjoy hitting Verdansk last night. I did enjoy it. It brought feelings and emotions I've not felt in a while.
Yeah.
It was good to be able to go around and just play comfortably, just... Like, you could see no one's using the same stuff. Yes, some people are still trying to use their dual Skycov pistols and stuff like that, but they're not hitting as hard as what they were pre-patch.
Yes.
Like, I don't feel they're doing as much damage. Like, when you got hit with those pistols, it felt like they had stopping power rounds all of the time. Yeah. It was so quick, it was ridiculous, it was stupid.
We'll quickly blast through the patch notes. And yes, I quite agree. I've loved, like, it's because it's not a new map, but it feels like a new map. Obviously, they've implemented the dam in a much better way. Station that's
good on the eyes.
Yeah,
it's good on the eyes.
It's got rid of that horrible green mucky hue, and it's now replaced with a blue. I know we use our NVIDIA filters anyway, which is also another big reason to upgrade to PC if you're thinking about it, if you can afford to in the current climate. But let's just basically go over the patch notes. So we have got NVIDIA DLSS is now available on PC. Words can't describe how important that is. That is literally giving you so many more frames. This is basically one of the reasons why Cyberpunk ran properly on PC and not console. So really important to have that. End of game open mic has been turned off for modes with infinite respawn mechanics. So that would be stuck. That rebirth basically is what that means. Yeah. Player rank will now display the correct rank icons in the after action report. So basic quality of life changes. Gameplay loot that spawns across Verdansk has once again been updated. New exclusively what? Now exclusively consists of Cold War Black Ops weapons, including new K31 sniper rifle. So basically, you're not going to find Modern Warfare guns on the floor anymore. And we notice this because you start with a Cold War 1911, which I think that favors me quite a lot because I'm an expert with that weapon. Only legendary weapons will spawn as blueprints. Okay. Players no longer take armor bypassing damage when using a riot shield or facing an active thermite grenade. Sticking a player with Semtex will now always down them. Didn't realize it didn't, but now it does. Accessibility, bug fixes, fix the bug with the zoom mechanics. Oh, okay, fix the bug.
Oh, so that means the AOD is not actually protecting the player anymore when they get stuck.
No,
because even on sticks, it would still be.
The
AOD keeps them up.
That is the crack. So these are just other things. Yeah, so nothing that you
get your thermites and pockets, boys.
So yeah, obviously guns like the LC-10 and the Farah 83, which were last season's guns, they're now unlockable via challenges. So you can still unlock them if you hadn't done so on the last battle pass. I am conscious of time, I'll be as quick as I can with this. PPSH and the Swiss K31 sniper rifle. I feel as if that's just a Kar 98, but it's now officially in the sniper rifle category, so we'll see what the crack is. Assault rifles, Cold War AK-47. Recoil pattern has been adjusted, which is quite decent. Farah 83, minimum damage increased from 25 to 26, maximum damage decreased from 33 to 31. So basically they're making it a mid-range rifle. Maximum damage range increased by 17, and recoil pattern has been adjusted. It's been made slightly worse, but it's basically going to be what the Galil should be, is a high recoil, high damage powerhouse, and basically what the Scar should have been. The FFAR has had a massive nerf, so damage reduction, range reduction, headshot damage reduction, neck shot damage reduction, upper torso damage reduction, and ADS speed reduction. Groza, because they were expecting the Groza to take the meta after that got nerfed, that's also been, in their own words, this change is a precaution. Obviously expecting people to jump straight to that once the Farah got nerfed, which is kind of what I predicted, so good on them. Craig 6, that's had a couple of damage increases for headshots, neck shots, upper torso and lower torso, so basically that's going to be doing a lot more damage now. QPZ3, which was like the bulldog AR, move speed increase, aim down sight increase, neck damage multiplier increased from 1 to 1.2, which is a 20% increase, and upper damage also turned up. So basically, like the slower rifles in the Cold War section, like the slower Cold War assault rifles, they're getting big damage buffs. So LC-10, slight budge, velocity increase, Mach 10, maximum damage decreased by 1. Sniper rifles, Pellington 703s had an ADS speed increased, and raise time increased slightly. So basically it's not as fast.
Can we stay on this one for a moment?
On Pellington?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, so I had a turn of this last night.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This is, for me, this is competing with a Kar 98K now.
Oh, right, so the speed increase is making it faster. Okay.
Yeah, this gun is, watch out for it. If you hear a Pellington, don't think that he's going to miss you, because he's probably an ex-Kar 98K player, to be honest. If someone's running around with this gun now, you'll see a lot more of this. You're going to see a lot more of these.
You heard it here first, everyone. And right at the end of the patch notes here, tactical rifles, Cold War Tactical Rifle Charlie, you'll know it as the AUG. Time between bursts increased by 33%, and neck damage, this is huge, neck damage multiplier changed from 1.8 to 1.3. That is a massive change. M16, time between bursts increased by 10%. A massive one here. Neck damage multiplier change from 1.8 to 1.1. 70% decrease. Massive nerf on the M16 there. This is ominous. We are keeping an eye on the AMAX. No king rules forever. So there's been loads of barrel changes as well. increasing fire rates and all that jazz. But being conscious of time, yeah, there's quite a lot of fun going off. How rude. Might have to answer that. Yeah, sorry about that. So that was a potential job, but they didn't actually say. I just want a couple more details. Actually, it's like, well, can you do that later? All right. So it feels as if they've kind of got their act together with this one. How do you feel about that?
I think a lot of the changes that they say, remember, this is Call of Duty we're talking about, they say they've done. When I was in the field last night, there was some obvious distinctions when you hear the gunfire. Why aren't I hearing the FFAR? Why aren't I hearing like the Car 98K and stuff like that? And this is the reason why. It looks like the new takeover has taken a total different direction, and
It has.
It looks like they're looking to balance the game.
They said that they want to increase the time to kill of in general, and make that a bit longer. But there's a ton of like balanced changes as well. So they're actually giving exact numbers for the barrels and stuff now, and so tons of changes really to go through here. But feels good. But did ye know, Alan? Did ye know that marsupials, like bandicoots, kangaroos, well, not necessarily kangaroos in this case, often have multiple penises and multiple vaginas?
No.
Did you know that?
No, I did not. So, would you like my did ye know?
I would love your did ye know.
While we're on the topic, while we've been over the topic of toxicity, Call of Duty, death, all that stuff, there's a company out there that will take somebody's dead body and turn it into a reef for a fisher's house and place it into the ocean for ocean burials.
Where do you research that kind of thing?
Just on the internet, bro.
So thank you to the audience for staying around this long. I'm sorry if the end got a little bit rushed. Where Hexy does have work very soon.
8 minutes.
So yeah, we did a wrap up. I will be doing a full guide into the balance patches and all that stuff on a separate video. But no, we'd like to thank Hexy very much for his time. So yeah, guys, if you did enjoy this podcast, let us know. And we're up to, and you wanted to have a discussion, let us know. We're in the comment section, and we'll be we'll be replying to everything. Both me and Hexy here will be keeping an eye on that comment section of the video. But until then, I'm Hoff. I'm
Hexy.
He's Hexy. And yeah, you guys are awesome, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace. Brilliant, man. Fucking brilliant.